The camera shakes as a sheriff's deputy walks along the shoulder of a two-lane highway, his body mic crackling in the dry morning air. On one side, endless Arizona desert, sagebrush, heat, shimmer, silence. On the other, a dusty blue Subaru, hazard lights still blinking, driver's door hanging wide open. The engine is off. The keys are gone. And so are the people who were inside. The deputy calls out, "Sheriff's office," into the wind, but the desert answers with nothing at all. Inside the car, 2 iced coffee cups sit in the center console, still sweating in the heat. A folded paper map is spread across the passenger seat, a thick black line drawn along a route toward the Grand Canyon. In the back, there's a half-built camping setup, duffel bags, a cooler, and a camera tripod. On the floorboard is a single flip-flop. On the dashboard is a printed itinerary with 2 names at the top. Tyler Brooks. Maya Ellison, 28 years old, on a carefully planned road trip across the American Southwest, posting smiling photos every day, texting family, calling home, and then somewhere between one exit and the next, they simply vanish. No skid marks, no struggle visible from the road, just a car at mile marker 117, abandoned in the middle of nowhere. Within hours, this quiet stretch of desert becomes the center of a search that will expose secrets, lies, and a killer hiding in plain sight. How does a couple disappear on an open road with nowhere to hide? And who is the last person to see them alive? Northern Arizona looks empty from the highway. From the air, it's a patchwork of rust-colored rock, pale sand, and thin strips of asphalt stretching in straight lines across the desert. But on the ground, this place is anything but simple. It's a landscape that can turn from peaceful to deadly in a matter of hours. The year is 2022. Tourism in Arizona is booming again. After months of people staying close to home, the pull of wide open spaces is stronger than ever. National parks are packed. Airbnbs are booked months in advance. And thousands of young travelers are doing exactly what Tyler and Maya are doing, loading up a car and chasing the promise of freedom down long highways. Roughly 90 minutes northeast of Phoenix, the town of Sandstone Ridge sits at the edge of that freedom. It's a small place population just under 7,000 tucked between low red mesas and miles of government-owned desert. There's a single main street with a diner, a gas station, a hardware store, and a motel with a faded neon sign that still hums at night. Tourists don't usually stop here unless they have to. They pass through on their way to more famous destinations: Sedona's Red Rocks to the west, the Grand Canyon further north, the Navajo Nation to the east. But Sandstone Ridge has something travelers need: fuel, food, a last reliable cell signal. And one more thing: the highway that runs past it. State Route 15 is long, straight, and mostly empty. For hours at a time, drivers may not see another car. At night, there are stretches where the only light comes from your own headlights and the distant glow of truck stops miles away. On paper, it's safe enough. Broad shoulders, clear sight lines, rarely any traffic. In reality, once you leave Sandstone Ridge and head north toward the high desert plateau, you are very much alone. The locals know this. Ask anyone at the diner, and they'll tell you stories. Cars overheating in August, rental SUVs stuck in sudden monsoon washouts, hikers misjudging the distance to that interesting rock formation off in the distance. Out here, A flat tire at the wrong time of day can mean heat stroke before help arrives. At the Saku County Sheriff's Substation. On the south edge of town, deputies understand these risks well. They patrol Route 15, respond to breakdowns, and pull over the occasional speeding tourist who thinks an empty road means no limits. They deal with drunk drivers, livestock on the highway, and the odd dust storm. They do not deal with missing people. Not like this. Before Tyler and Maya's car turns up at mile marker 117, the most serious incident on this stretch of road in recent memory is a rollover accident involving an overtired trucker. Fatal, yes, but easily explained, easily documented. So when that blue Subaru appears on the shoulder one quiet Sunday morning, with no one inside and no sign of where they've gone, it doesn't just puzzle the deputies. It unsettles them because there is nowhere, at first glance, for Tyler and Maya to have gone. Flat desert, no buildings, no hiking trails, no rest stop, just open land in every direction. Who would choose to walk away from their car out here? And what or who could be waiting for them in that emptiness? Before their names end up on the top of a missing persons report, Tyler Brooks and Maya Ellison are just two people trying to figure out adulthood in a world that never seems to slow down. They live in jobs of Fort Collins, Colorado, in a small second-floor apartment above a bike shop. The walls are thin, the parking is tight, but from their balcony they can see a line of mountains that, on clear days, make everything else feel possible. Tyler is a WoW software developer, the kind of person who can spend 8 hours staring at code and still have enough patience left to help a neighbor reset their Wi-Fi. He works remote, hoodie and headphones, coffee always within reach. Friends describe him as steady, not flashy. The one you call when your car won't start, or when you're moving and need someone who won't bail at the last minute. Maya is a freelance photographer and part-time barista at a local cafe. Her schedule is chaotic but creative. One week, she's shooting family portraits in a park. The next, she's up before dawn, chasing the right light over a field of wildflowers. She's the kind of person who notices small things, patterns in old tiles, the way light hits a window, the particular shade of blue in Tyler's eyes when he's tired. They meet 5 years earlier at a friend's hiking trip in Rocky Mountain National Park. Tyler brings all the gear and a paper map. Maya brings nothing but a camera and a water bottle, assuming someone else has the directions. By the end of the day, they've shared trail mix, inside jokes, and a quiet moment at a lookout where Maya snaps a candid photo of Tyler laughing. Well, that photo ends up framed on their bedroom wall. Their relationship is not perfect. No one's is, but it's solid. They argue about money sometimes, about how much work is too much, about whether Maya should take a steady studio job instead of chasing freelance gigs. They tease each other about Tyler's color-coded spreadsheets and Maya's tendency to run 10 minutes late to everything. They are, by every measure, ordinary. In the months leading up to the road trip, ordinary starts to feel suffocating. Work has been stressful. The pandemic years have blurred one day into the next. Tyler stares at the same laptop screen, in the same chair, in the same room, and realizes he can't remember the last time he went more than an hour without checking Slack. Maya watches clients cancel or postpone shoots. She makes lattes for strangers who talk about their vacations, while she quietly counts tips and wonders when it will be her turn to go somewhere. So they start to plan. It begins as a someday conversation. What if we took 2 weeks and just drove? No airports, no security lines, just the open road, national parks, photographing abandoned towns, eating at places that don't exist on food blogs. Then Tyler's boss announces a company-wide remote work policy through the end of the year. 2 weeks suddenly becomes 3. Maya lands a big wedding job that helps pad their savings. She runs the numbers, they tighten their budget, and someday becomes a departure date on the calendar. May 7th, 2022. They create a shared Google Doc titled Southwest Road Trip. Master Plan. Tyler maps out the route, Fort Collins to Moab, onto Monument Valley, then down through Flagstaff, Sedona, and finally the Grand Canyon before looping back home. Maya adds notes in the margins. Sunrise shot here. Try that taco place Katie mentioned. Abandoned gas station off 191. Possible photo series. They launch a small Instagram account for the trip called Two-Lane Trails, intending it as a digital scrapbook for family and friends. No dreams of going viral. Just a place to dump photos so they don't clog everyone's group chats. When they finally hit the road, they do it in Tyler's pride and joy. A dusty blue 2014 Subaru Outback. It's not new, but it's reliable, with all-wheel drive and enough scratches to prove it's been used for more than grocery runs. The first week of the trip goes exactly as planned. There are photos of red arches against a bright blue sky in Moab, goofy selfies in front of a roadside dinosaur statue, a short video of Tyler struggling to set up a camping stove while Maya laughs behind the camera. Every night they text their families. Maya's last text to her older sister reads, "Service is spotty, but we're good. Headed toward this little town tomorrow. Sandstone Ridge." A local on a travel forum said there's an amazing overlook no one knows about. If you don't hear from me by Monday, assume we're just off-grid and having too much fun. Her sister responds with a thumbs up and a joking, "Don't get murdered by some random from the internet, okay?" Maya sends back a laughing emoji, then adds, "We're being careful, promise. Tyler has like 3 backup plans." Tyler's last phone call to his mother happens the same evening. He stands outside a budget motel, the sky dimming to purple. He tells her about the heat, about the strange beauty of the desert, about how Maya keeps making him stop every few miles so she can photograph ruined billboards and rusted signs. His mother reminds him to drink water. He laughs, reassures her they've got a cooler full of it. They talk about nothing and everything. Before hanging up, she says, "Send me a picture at the Grand Canyon. That's the one I want on my fridge." "I will," Tyler says. "Promise." At this point, there is no sign that anything is wrong. They buy snacks at a gas station outside Sedona. Surveillance footage shows them at the counter. Tyler swiping his card. Maya turning the camera on herself for a quick video. Grinning, sunburned, and happy. Later that night, from their motel room in Sandstone Ridge, they post one last photo to Two-Lane Trails. The sun sinking behind a jagged line of mesas, the caption reading, "Tomorrow, north into the real desert. No crowds, no noise, just us and the road." The next morning, they check out of the motel. They load the Subaru. Tyler folds the paper map along a route he's marked in black ink. In their shared trip document, under Sunday's date, there is a short, almost throwaway line Maya had added days before. Meet Caleb, local guide, sunrise tip, might show us a viewpoint near mile 110-120. Said it's safe, just remote, TBD. That TBD is never updated. And by that afternoon, the open road that once promised freedom becomes the last place anyone sees Tyler and Maya alive. It's Sunday, May 15th, 2022. At 7:18 a.m., a motel security camera in Sandstone Ridge captures the last clear footage of Tyler Brooks and Maya Ellison alive. Tyler carries a backpack and a folded paper map. Maya cradles her camera bag, a pair of sunglasses pushed up into her hair. They walk across the cracked parking lot toward the dusty blue Subaru. The sun is already bright. Heat is coming. 7 minutes later, the Subaru pulls out onto State Route 15, heading north. From this point on, what happens is not captured on video. What we know comes later from phone records, digital forensics, and eventually from the killer's own words. As the Subaru leaves the edge of town, Maya opens her messaging app. At 7:47 a.m., she sends a short text to a contact saved as Caleb, AZ Guide. Leaving Sandstone now. Should be near 110 in about 45 mins. The reply comes less than a minute later. Perfect. I'll be in a white F-150 on the east side pullout a few miles after 115. Hard to miss. You'll love this spot. Tyler drives. Maya scrolls through her camera roll, deleting duplicates. In the passenger footwell, there's a folded piece of paper where Maya has scribbled Secret Overlook with a question mark next to mile markers 110-120. At 8:29 a.m., according to data later pulled from the Subaru's onboard system, the car slows, then pulls onto the shoulder near mile marker 117. There's no official turnout here. Just a wider patch of gravel beside the asphalt, and a faint dirt track stretching east into open desert. A white pickup truck already waits there. In his eventual confession, Caleb will describe this moment casually. They were right on time, he says, smiling, like we were all just going on a little hike. He walks over to the Subaru. To Tyler and Maya, he looks exactly like his small online profile suggested. Mid-30s, tanned, ball cap, mirrored sunglasses, a patched denim jacket. Harmless. The kind of local outdoor enthusiast you might expect to meet on a travel forum. He shakes Tyler's hand, nods at Maya, and jerks his thumb toward the dirt track. Viewpoint's about 1.5 miles that way, he says. You don't want to drive it unless you've got high clearance. You can follow me in the truck, or we can just walk. Maya, thinking about the heat, suggests they drive part of the way, if he thinks the Subaru can handle it. Caleb insists the sand gets too soft. He sounds concerned. Protective, even. They decide to walk. At 8:34 a.m., Tyler switches on the Subaru's hazard lights, then locks the back doors, but leaves the driver's door slightly ajar, expecting they'll be back in an hour or so. He takes only his water bottle and phone. Maya slings her camera across her shoulder. They follow Caleb away from the highway, their footprints etching shallow impressions in the pale dust. From the road, the desert looks flat. From the ground, it's more treacherous. Low ridges, dry washes, occasional clusters of thorny shrubs. Within 10 minutes, the highway noise fades into a dull hum. Tyler and Maya think they are moving toward a hidden overlook. They are not. Caleb leads them along the faint track, then veers slightly right into a shallow arroyo where the ground dips and sight lines vanish. Here, surrounded by sandy walls and scrub, They are invisible from the highway. In later reconstructions, investigators will walk this route over and over, tracing those last steps. What happens next takes less than 3 minutes. According to Caleb, he falls back behind them, pretending to tie his boot. When they turn around, he already has a gun in his hand. He tells them to put their phones on the ground, to empty their pockets, to hand over Maya's camera. They think it's a robbery. Out in the middle of nowhere, it's terrifying, but in their minds, survivable. Give him what he wants. Get back to the car. Call the police. Maya, always observant, notices something Tyler doesn't. Caleb isn't just nervous. He's excited. She hesitates over the camera. That tiny pause is enough. There is a brief struggle. No one but Caleb witnesses it. No one but Caleb walks out of that arroyo. He will later claim the gun just went off. That it wasn't supposed to happen this way. That he panicked. The forensic evidence will say otherwise. What is known is this. By 8:40 a.m., both Tyler and Maya are dead. Their bodies are dragged a short distance down the wash, partially covered with loose brush and rocks. It is not a careful burial, but in the vastness of the desert, it is more than enough to hide them for a time. Caleb walks back toward the highway alone. He takes their phones, Maya's camera, and Tyler's wallet. He does not touch the Subaru beyond closing the driver's door and pocketing the keys. He wants it to look like they walked away of their own free will. Then he gets into his white pickup and drives away. From the perspective of passing motorists, the Subaru is just another car on the shoulder with its hazard lights blinking. Hours pass. Around 11:15 a.m., a long-haul truck driver named Ron Haskins spots the Subaru as he heads south toward Phoenix. He notes the flashing hazards, but there's no one standing nearby, no smoke, no sign of distress. He assumes someone has already called for help, or that the driver has gone to look for a cell signal. 3 hours later, after making his delivery and turning around, Ron heads back north. At 2:32 p.m., he passes mile marker 117 again. The same car. The same blinking lights. Still no one in sight. This time, something feels wrong. Ron pulls over a little further up the road, grabs his reflective vest, and walks back toward the Subaru. Heat shimmers off the pavement. There's a stillness to the air that doesn't feel like simple quiet. The driver's door is now hanging open. "Hello?" he calls out, cautious but loud. "Anyone here? You okay?" No answer. He peeks inside. He sees the iced coffee cups in the console, melted now, beads of condensation running down the sides. A crumpled motel receipt on the dash. A printed itinerary with 2 names on it. He doesn't touch anything else. At 2:37 p.m. Ron calls 911. Yeah, I'm on Route 15, somewhere north of Sandstone," he tells the dispatcher. "There's this car on the side of the road. Hazard lights have been on all day. I saw it earlier. Still here. Driver's door is open. I don't see anybody around." The call is routed to the Cedar County Sheriff's Office. Substation serving Sandstone Ridge. Deputy Force Carla Ruiz, a 10-year veteran with a background in search and rescue, is dispatched to the scene. Her dash cam captures the approach. A long ribbon of empty highway, the small blue shape of the Subaru growing larger in the frame. She pulls in behind it, lights on. As she steps out, the first thing she notices is the heat radiating off the asphalt, pressing down from the sky. The second thing is the silence. No voices, no footsteps, no distant engine noise, just the soft ticking of cooling metal. "Sheriff's office," she calls, approaching the open driver's door. "If you can hear me, call out." Nothing. Inside the car, it looks like someone has just stepped away for a moment. Wallet not visible. Keys missing. Back seat full of camping gear and duffel bags. A tripod case. A pair of women's sandals, neatly tucked under the passenger seat. A single flip-flop rests on the driver's side floor mat, as if someone stepped out in a hurry and lost it. Ruiz's eyes move to the paper on the dashboard. She sees the names: Tyler Brooks, Maya Ellison, a printed list of towns and dates. Under Sunday's entry, in Maya's handwriting, "Secret Overlook, local guide?" Her stomach tightens. She circles the vehicle, scanning the ground. There, in the dust near the shoulder, she notices faint impressions, footprints, leading away from the car and toward the desert. At least 2 sets, maybe 3. It's hard to tell. The wind has already begun to blur the edges. A second patrol unit arrives, then an ambulance, as protocol demands. They search the immediate area within sight of the road, calling out the names on the itinerary. "Tyler, Maya!" No reply. No discarded water bottles. No backpacks. Just the endless repetition of low shrubs and pale dirt. For now, this is treated as a missing persons situation, possibly a stranded hiker's call. But Deputy Ruiz feels something colder sliding in beneath that explanation. People don't just walk away from a running car into 90-degree heat without taking water, phones, or keys. She radios in the plate number. Dispatch confirms the Subaru is registered to Tyler Brooks of Fort Collins, Colorado. No local record. No wants or warrants. By early evening, the scene around mile marker 117 is marked off with yellow tape. Photographs are taken of the footprints, the gravel, the faint indentations of other tire tracks on the opposite side of the road. One of those sets of tracks does not match the Subaru's tires. As the sun starts to drop, painting the desert in long shadows, Deputy Ruiz stands at the edge of the asphalt and looks out toward the low ridges in the distance. Somewhere out there, she thinks, are answers. She doesn't yet know how far she will have to go to find them. By sunset on the Sunday, May 15th, the abandoned Subaru at mile marker 117 is no longer just a stranded vehicle. It's an open question. Deputy Fang Jing growled. Carla Ruiz finishes her preliminary report, leaning against her patrol SUV, dust on her boots, and a knot between her shoulders that won't go away. The scene feels wrong, too neat, too staged. The car is intact. The valuables left behind don't match any normal robbery. And the footprints leading into the desert simply stop where the terrain turns rocky and uneven. She calls her supervisor. Within an hour, the Cedar County Sheriff's Office team upgrades the situation from a welfare check to an official missing persons case. That night, 2 parallel efforts begin, one out in the desert, and one in the quiet corridors of the sheriff's office and beyond. The search starts with what they can do in the dark. By 9 p.m., a small team from Cedar County Search and Rescue SOSTUS arrives at mile 117. They deploy thermal imaging from a helicopter, sweeping the desert for heat signatures. Ground teams with headlamps and high-powered flashlights fan out from the Subaru, following the faint path Ruiz marked earlier. They call Tyler and Maya's names into the night. They listen for any response, a shout, a groan, even a cough carried on the wind. Nothing. The desert absorbs their voices and gives back only the rustle of dry brush and the occasional cry of a distant coyote. K-9 units are brought in. The dogs are given scent articles from the Subaru, a T-shirt from the back seat, a sandal, the cloth strap of Maya's camera bag. They pull eagerly at their leads, tracing the same route Carla saw earlier, out away from the road, into the low dips and rises. Then, frustratingly, they begin to circle. They whine. They pull in different directions. The heat baked into the ground, combined with hours passing since any human walked there, scatters the scent. The handlers mark the general direction the dogs seemed most certain of, east, toward a network of shallow washes. But by 1 a.m., conditions are too dangerous to continue. Rattlesnakes, uneven terrain, fatigue. The team pulls back, planning to resume at first light. Meanwhile, inside the sheriff's office in Sandstone Ridge, the focus is on information. Tyler and Maya are not locals. No driver's licenses in the county system. No prior calls for service. Their first verified presence in Sandstone Ridge is the motel receipt still up on the dashboard of the Subaru. Sergeant Jenna Cole, the county's de facto lead on major investigations, is called in from home. In her early 40s, with sharp eyes and a methodical way of speaking, Cole has spent most of her career on narcotics and property crimes. Homicides are rare here. Missing tourists usually turn up drunk at a campground or sheepish at a nearby town. But as she stands in front of the whiteboard, where Tyler and Maya's names are now written in blue dry erase marker, she senses this will not be one of those cases. Her first move, establish a timeline. Last confirmed sighting in town, motel security footage, 7:18 a.m. Time the Subaru likely stopped. Vehicle data indicates 8:29 a.m. First 911 call, 2:37 p.m. Deputies on scene by 3:05 p.m. She draws a long line between motel and mile 117 and writes one word above it in red. Why? The families are brought into the picture just after midnight. At 12:24 a.m., a Fort Collins police officer knocks on the door of a small house on the north side of town. Tyler's parents are told their son's car has been found abandoned in Arizona. Their questions come faster than the officer can answer. Was there an accident? Is he hurt? Where's Maya? Why would they leave the car? Similar conversations play out at Maya's parents' home and at her sister's apartment. Everyone says the same thing. Tyler and Maya are responsible. They would not simply wander off into the desert and vanish. By morning, both families are on the first flights they can find to Phoenix, then driving north to Sandstone Ridge in rental cars, clinging to the hope that this is a misunderstanding that will be cleared up any minute now. On Monday, the search effort expands dramatically. You might be wondering what that looks like in a place like this. It starts before dawn. Search and rescue teams gather in a makeshift command post set up in the parking lot of a small church in Sandstone Ridge. Maps are taped to walls. Sections of desert are divided into grids. Volunteers from town add their names to sign-in sheets, offering ATVs, horses, or just their own 2 feet. By 7 a.m., a line of vehicles heads toward mile marker 117. Helicopters circle overhead again, this time not just looking for heat signatures, but for anything out of place. Disturbed soil, unusually bright objects, against the muted tones of sand and rock, a scrap of clothing. Ground teams walk shoulder to shoulder through the scrub, flag tape marking where they've already been. They find footprints too smudged and overlapped now to be useful. Coyote tracks, old beer cans. Nothing that tells them where Tyler and Maya have gone. The sun climbs, the temperature follows. By midday, they've covered a radius of more than 2 miles around the Subaru, with no sign of the couple. The desert feels larger with every empty step. Back in town, Sergeant Cole's focus is on the car, and the digital trail. The Subaru is towed to a secured bay at the county garage. Technicians document every inch. No blood visible. No sign of forced entry. The driver's seat is adjusted for someone roughly Tyler's height. The fuel tank is still more than half full. On the floorboard, that lone flip-flop, size 8, likely Maya's. In the center console, 2 empty cup holders where iced coffees once sat. In the back, a camera tripod, but no camera. No phones are found anywhere. To Cole, that's a glaring detail. If they walked off voluntarily, she later notes, why take no water, no hats, no phones? But somehow remember to lock the back doors and pocket the keys? At the Sandstone Ridge Motel, detectives seize the contents of the room Tyler and Maya checked out of. In the small trash can, food wrappers, a crumpled brochure for Grand Canyon tours, and a printed page from an online travel forum. The page has a username underlined in blue ink, Canyon Guide AZ. Next to it, in Maya's handwriting, Caleb says he knows hidden viewpoints near 110-120. Might meet? On the motel Wi-Fi router logs, they find the Massey addresses of Tyler and Maya's devices. With warrants rapidly obtained and routed through service providers, investigators start pulling phone records, location data, and social media activity source. They track the Instagram account Two-Lane Trails, noticing the pattern of daily posts and the abrupt stop after Saturday night's sunset photo. On Maya's cloud backup, forensic analysts access her messages. They find the conversation with a number saved as Caleb, AZ Guide, and a trail of messages going back 2 weeks. The tone is friendly. Caleb offers suggestions for off-the-beaten-path spots. He claims to be a local guide, part-time park volunteer. He sends a few photos of vistas and rock formations images that, upon closer inspection, are pulled from public stock photography sites, not his own camera. The last message from Maya, sent at 7:47 a.m. Sunday, says, leaving Sandstone now. Should be near 110 in about 45 mins. Caleb's reply, perfect. I'll be in a white F-150 on the east side pullout a few miles after 115. Hard to miss. You'll love this spot. Cole circles that phrase on a printed transcript. White F-150 wood. It matches the unidentified tire tracks Ruiz saw opposite the Subaru. They run the phone number attached to Caleb, AZ Guide, through every database they have. It doesn't belong to anyone. It's a prepaid, no contract phone, purchased in cash. No name, no address. A dead end? Not entirely. Cell tower logs show that the phone is active in and around Sandstone Ridge in the days before the disappearance. On Sunday morning, its signal pings near mile 117 around 8:15 a.m., then again near a different tower north of town at 9:02 a.m., moving away from the scene. After that, the number never connects to the network again. The phone is either destroyed or shut off for good. By a Tuesday, the case is national. News outlets pick up the story of the missing road trip couple. Photos from Arse two-lane trails flash across TV screens and phone notifications. Tyler and Maya smiling in front of red rock arches. Tyler squinting in bright sun, Maya balancing on a low wall to frame a shot. Comment sections fill with speculation. Some suggest they got lost and succumbed to the elements. Others, more cynical, float theories of a staged disappearance, a social media stunt gone wrong. For Sergeant Cole, the armchair theories don't matter. She's looking at hard data. The bar phone carrier records show both Tyler and Maya's phones go dark just after 8:30 a.m. Sunday minutes after the Subaru stops. Not gradually, not from a dying battery. Abruptly, like someone holding the power button down until the screen goes black. On Wednesday, a potential break comes from an unexpected source. A gas station on the edge of town. Investigators have already pulled CCTV from the Sandstone Ridge motel, the diner, and the main intersection. Now they widen the net, subpoenaing video from any business within 10 miles that has a camera pointed at the road. At Red Mesa Fuel and Mart, a clerk pulls up footage from early Sunday morning. At 6:52 a.m., the blue Subaru rolls past toward the motel. Later, at 7:23 a.m., it passes again, heading north out of town. 3 minutes after that, at 7:26 a.m., a white Ford F-150 SOS with an aftermarket grille and a dented front bumper turns out of the same street toward the highway. The driver wears a baseball cap and a denim jacket with a distinctive patch on the sleeve. The camera angle is bad. The plate isn't readable. The face is mostly shadowed, but it's something. Cole freezes the frame on the patch. It looks like a stylized saguaro cactus with a red sun behind it. Check local businesses, she tells a junior detective. Outfitters, guides, tour companies. See if anyone uses that logo. While investigators chase visual leads, the search teams keep combing the desert. On Thursday morning, 4 days after Tyler and Maya vanish, a volunteer searcher named Linda Chavez is walking a new grid sector east of the highway. She's a retired school teacher from Sandstone Ridge who's lived here long enough to read the land like a book. A faint smell hits her first, something sour, out of place amid the dry, dusty air. She follows it into a shallow wash partially shaded by scrub. There, partially hidden under hastily thrown branches and rocks, she sees what the others have missed. Fabric, a shoe, skin. She calls out for the nearest deputy, her voice shaking but loud. "Over here! I've got something. I think I've got them." Within minutes, the wash is locked down as a crime scene. The bodies are badly affected by 4 days of desert heat, but enough remains for identification through tattoos, dental records, and personal items. Tyler's watch, the necklace Maya's sister gave her. The autopsy, performed that night at the regional medical examiner's office, confirms what everyone has begun to fear. Tyler and Maya both die of gunshot wounds. There are no defensive marks that would suggest a prolonged fight. The shots are close range. This is not an accident. This is an execution. For Sergeant Cole, the classification shifts decisively. The missing persons case is now a double homicide investigation. The desert that seemed wide open is now a crime scene that covers miles. The discovery of the bodies sharpens everything. Agents from the Arizona Department of Public Safety and eventually the FBI join the investigation, offering technical support and broader databases. Ballistics experts recover deformed bullets and fragments from the bodies and from the sand beneath. They determine the likely caliber. 9mm or a common handgun round. On Tyler's left hand, they find faint residue suggesting he may have briefly tried to grab the weapon or that he was close enough when someone else fired that the residue transferred. In the wash, investigators find small clues missed in the initial search. A boot print with a distinctive tread pattern, different from Tyler's or Maya's. A cigarette butt half buried in the sand. A tiny piece of black plastic, later identified as part of a cheap cell phone casing. Each of these items is bagged, labeled, and sent to state labs. What investigators want more than anything is a name to put with Caleb, AZ Guide. They don't have it yet, but they are getting closer. The white F-150, the prepaid phone, the fake guide persona online, the 9mm weapon. Slowly, a picture is forming of someone who plans just well enough to lure strangers into the desert, but not well enough to erase every trace of himself. What they find next will turn Caleb from a shadowy online contact into a very real suspect with a life, a history, and a string of secrets that suggest Tyler and Maya may not be his only targets. When the news breaks that Tyler and Maya's bodies have been found, the tone of everything shifts. This isn't a rescue mission anymore. It's a hunt. A hunt for whoever calls himself. Caleb, AZ Guide. In the first days after the bodies are recovered, the internet fills the vacuum left by limited facts. On social media, strangers build theories out of fragments. Some point to the remote location and murmur about drug traffickers or cartel activity, imagining Tyler and Maya stumbling into something they weren't supposed to see. Others seize on the fact that the couple meets a stranger from the internet in an isolated spot. The narrative becomes a cautionary tale. You can't trust people online. This is what happens. A darker corner of speculation suggests a murder-suicide. Until the autopsy confirms both Tyler and Maya are shot at close range, with no weapon found at the scene. Inside the investigation, the possibilities narrow quickly. Sergeant Jenna Cole draws a box around the word Caleb on her whiteboard and lists 3 broad theories beneath it. Caleb is who he says he is, a local outdoor enthusiast who snapped and killed them. Caleb is a fabricated persona, used by someone with a more complex agenda. There is no Caleb at all, and the messages are part of some elaborate misdirection by someone closer to Tyler and Maya. They test each theory against what they know. There is no history of threats or conflict in Tyler and Maya's lives. No jealous ex, no major debts, no angry clients of Maya's. Their friends and families paint a picture of a stable, if stressed couple without enemies. To Cole, Theory 3, that someone in their circle lures them to Arizona under a fake name and burns a prepaid phone afterward, seems possible, but remote. Everything points back to the desert. And to that white F-150. Remember the bee patch on the denim jacket from the gas station security footage? The stylized saguaro cactus with a red sun behind it. Detectives circulate a still image around Sandstone Ridge and nearby towns. At first, no one recognizes it. It doesn't match any of the bigger tour companies or national park volunteer programs. But then, at a small outdoor gear store called Desert Edge Outfitters, a clerk in her early 20s looks at the photo and frowns. "I've seen that," she says. "We had a local off-road club custom order those patches last year. Red Sun Overland. They've got a Facebook group, bunch of guys with trucks and ATVs. The store only sells a handful of the patches. The club members usually pick them up in person, paying cash. No names on receipts. But when detectives contact the administrator of the Red Sun Overland Facebook group, they get a shorter list to work from. He gives them around 24 names. Men in their 20s through 50s. Locals, mostly. A few from neighboring counties. Among them, Caleb Hargrove, 35, Sandstone Ridge address. Drives a white 2010 Ford F-150. Known in the group for knowing all the little side routes no one else uses. Cole circles that name. Caleb has no serious criminal record. A DUI in his early 20s. A disorderly conduct complaint after a bar fight. Nothing that screams future murderer. But a deeper background check turns up something more interesting. He worked seasonally for the State Park Service about 8 years earlier. Trail maintenance, informal guiding. He quit abruptly after clashing with a supervisor over boundary issues with solo female hikers. No charges were ever filed, just a reprimand, then a resignation. On the travel forum printout from the motel, his username is More Angsty, Canyon Guide AZ. The overlap is too much to ignore. As you watch this, you might be wondering, how often do strangers online actually turn out to be exactly who they say they are? In this case, the answer is partially. Agents and detectives start trawling through the digital footprint of the Oscuri Chosiu. Canyon Guide AZ. The account has been active for nearly 3 years, posting friendly advice in threads about Arizona road trips, desert hikes, and hidden viewpoints. Most of it is generic. Copy and pasted recommendations anyone could find with a quick Google search. But then there are the private messages. Once the case hits the news, other travelers begin to come forward. A woman from Oregon emails the sheriff's office. I think this Canyon Guide AZ guy messaged me last year when I posted about visiting Arizona alone. He kept insisting he could show me spots no one else knows about. It got weird, so I blocked him. A couple from Texas reports a similar experience. He was pushy about meeting up away from the main trails. We decided to stick to the national park lookouts instead. When we told him no, he got kind of cold and stopped responding. None of them actually met him, but each conversation sketches the same persona. Friendly, slightly overeager, fixated on our-aimed remote locations. And no crowds. Investigators overlay the dates of those messages with missing persons reports in the broader region. In 2 cases, hikers vanish in the last 3 years within a 100-mile radius of Sandstone Ridge. Their disappearances were chalked up to the desert. Heat, bad choices, poor planning. No bodies were ever found. Ballistics don't link those cases to Tyler and Maya's shooting. There were no recovered bullets then. But the pattern unnerves the task force. Is Caleb a one-time opportunist? Or has he been practicing? Then there's the truck. Officers quietly conduct surveillance on Caleb Hargrove while they build probable cause. They watch his small rental house on the outskirts of Sandstone Ridge. A white F-150 sits in the driveway, sporting an aftermarket grill, a dent in the front bumper, and a faded Red Sun Overland decal on the back window. From the street, they can see a denim jacket hanging just inside the front door. On the sleeve, the Red Sun and Saguaro patch. They run the truck's movements through highway and town cameras where available. On Sunday morning, it appears in grainy footage just outside Sandstone Ridge at 7:25 a.m., heading north onto Route 15. There is no footage of it at mile 117. It's too remote for cameras. But at 9:05 a.m., a white F-150, matching the description, is captured on another gas station camera farther north, coming back toward town. The timeline lines up almost too neatly with Tyler and Maya's disappearance. Still, circumstantial evidence is not enough to arrest him for double murder. Cole needs something solid, something that ties Hargrove not just to the idea of Caleb, but to the one crime scene itself. While they wait for lab results on the cigarette butt and plastic fragment from the wash, forensic techs focus on the cell phone data. The prepaid number used by Caleb, AZ Guide, is closed, but not before leaving a trail of cell tower pings. Using network records, they map every location that number connects from over the past month. A pattern emerges. It's almost always in or near Sandstone Ridge. A few pings align with a small cluster of rental houses on the town's eastern edge. One of those houses belongs to a landlord who rents month to month. One of his tenants? Caleb Hargrove. On its own, it's still not enough. But then, a breakthrough comes from an angle no one expects. One of the Subaru online travel forums, where Canyon Guide AZ is active, keeps detailed server logs. While the username hides his real name, every login leaves a digital fingerprint, an IP address. With a federal warrant in hand, the FBI's cyber unit compares the forum IP logs to those from various internet service providers around Sandstone Ridge. A match pops. The IP used by Canyon Guide AZ on multiple occasions traces back to a single home internet account. The subscriber name on that account? Caleb D. Hargrove. At the same time, the State Crime Lab calls with an update. The DNA profile from the cigarette butt in the Arroyo doesn't match Tyler or Maya, but it does match a profile in the state database from an old, expunged juvenile case involving Caleb. Now the web tightens, community members whisper. Some who know Caleb from town describe him as quiet, helpful, into the outdoors. Others say he's off, prone to mood swings, fixated on outsiders. A few women mention feeling uneasy around him, comments brushed off as overreactions at the time. Media coverage begins to use phrases like suspected predator and online guide lure. Talk shows debate the safety of meeting strangers from the internet while traveling. Travel bloggers release videos about red flags in advice giver behavior. Through it all, Caleb goes about his routine. He shops for groceries. He works sporadically at a local auto shop. He posts nothing online. He has not yet been named publicly as a suspect. But inside the task force, there is little doubt. The theories that once swirled around cartels, random drifters, or secret lives begin to fall away. One name remains in the center of the board: Caleb D. Hargrove, a man who seems to be exactly what he presented himself as, a desert guide, but whose idea of guiding begins where the road ends and ends where the desert can hide anything. The only question now is how to bring him in, and whether he'll talk once they do. What happens when investigators finally sit across from the man calling himself Caleb? We'll decide whether Tyler and Maya's families ever hear the full truth about what happened at mile marker 117. By the time investigators feel ready to move on, Caleb Hargrove. The case file on him is thick. The DNA match from the cigarette butt in the Arroyo. The IP logs tying his home internet to the Canyon Guide AZ account. The cell tower data linking the prepaid Caleb AZ Guide phone to his neighborhood. The surveillance footage of a white F-150 with his distinctive bumper damage. The jacket patch that puts him in the Red Sun Overland Circle. Onchki, Friday, May 27th, 2022. Nearly 2 weeks after Tyler and Maya vanish, a judge signs a search warrant for Hargrove's house, truck, and digital devices, along with an G arrest warrant for 2 counts of second-degree murder and related charges. They don't want to risk spooking him. At 6:15 a.m., as the sky begins to lighten over Sandstone Ridge, an unmarked convoy rolls quietly into Hargrove Street. He walks out his front door carrying a duffel bag, seemingly headed for work at the auto shop, and finds himself staring down the barrels of drawn weapons and the red dots of laser sights. Caleb D. Hargrove, you're under arrest. An Arizona DPS tactical officer calls out. Hands where we can see them. Now! He freezes, drops the duffel, lifts his hands. There is no dramatic chase, no shootout. Just a quiet man in a faded ball cap and denim jacket sinking to his knees on cracked concrete as his neighbors peer nervously through blinds. Inside the duffel, detectives later find a change of clothes, $3,000 in cash, and a road map with several routes marked in red. He isn't running yet, but he's thinking about it. The search of his house and truck turns up exactly what detectives hope and fear they'll find. In a locked box under his bed, a posh 9mm semi-automatic handgun, cleaned but still bearing microscopic traces of biological material. In his closet, a stack of printed forum threads where Canyon Guide AZ has commented, some annotated in pen circles, around posts from solo female travelers, underscores beneath phrases like off the beaten path and no tour buses. In his small home office, a laptop with a browser full of usernames and passwords, including those for the travel forum account and a handful of other, mostly dormant personas. On an external hard drive, saved screenshots of private messages with travelers he tried to meet. In a folder labeled Plans, there are digital maps of remote locations with dates next to them. In the glove box of his white F-150T, they find a cheap, deactivated prepaid phone, its SIM card snapped in half. Lab work later connects that phone's unique identifiers to call records from the Caleb AZ Guide number. In a drawer by the front door, there's a small, cracked black camera strap clasp. It's an exact match to the broken plastic fragment recovered from the Arroyo where Tyler and Maya were found. What they do not find are Tyler's and Maya's phones or Maya's camera body. Those are likely gone, sold, destroyed, or wiped beyond easy recovery. But prosecutors won't need them. The car forensic ballistics report closes one more loop. The 9mm handgun from under Caleb's bed fires test rounds that match the microscopic striations on the bullet fragments removed from Tyler and Maya's bodies. The gun is the murder weapon. At the Paso Cedar County Sheriff's Office. Caleb sits in a small interview room, hands cuffed, a styrofoam cup of untouched water on the table. Sergeant Jenna Cole and an FBI agent named Mark Daniels take the lead. At first, Caleb denies everything. He admits to being Canyon Guide AZ. He admits he sometimes helps tourists find spots the brochures don't talk about. But he insists he never met Tyler and Maya. I get stood up all the time, he shrugs. People say they'll meet, then change their minds. It's no big deal. Cole slides a photo across the table. The gas station still of his truck, the screenshot of Maya's last text, the IP log printout, the ballistics report summary. Then she places a single picture in front of him. The arroyo where Tyler and Maya's bodies were found. Orange flags marking evidence points. We found your cigarette, she says quietly. Your DNA is there. Your gun killed them. You walked them out into the desert. You left them there. For a long moment, Caleb stares at the images. Then his shoulders sag. His first version of events frames everything as a robbery gone wrong. I just wanted some money, he says. People come through here with cash, cameras, nice stuff. They don't respect the dessert, I figured. Why shouldn't I take something back? I never meant to kill them. The gun went off twice. It happened fast. His story doesn't match the forensic evidence. The shot angles, the lack of close-quarters struggle injuries, the careful concealment of the bodies. As the hours go on and the questions tighten, his narrative shifts. He admits he's targeted travelers before, insists he never actually killed anyone else, claims those other times they chickened out or a ranger came by before anything could happen. Investigators remain unconvinced, but without bodies or hard evidence linking him to earlier missing persons cases, they focus on what they can prove. The murders of Tyler Brooks and Maya Ellison. The charging document, filed by the County District Attorney's Office, is stark. 2 counts of first-degree murder, upgraded from second-degree based on evidence of premeditation and the luring behavior. 2 counts of Guillermin. 1 count of robbery. Firearms enhancements on the major charges. Bail is denied. In the months before trial, Caleb's defense team floats the idea of a plea. They'll accept 2 counts of second-degree murder in exchange for life with the possibility of parole after 35 years. Tyler's and Maya's families are consulted. They say no. They want the full story told in open court. They want the jury and the public to see exactly how a seemingly harmless trip becomes a calculated trap. The trial begins in March 2023. In the regional courthouse 2 hours south of Sandstone Ridge. Media interest is high, but not overwhelming. This isn't a big city spectacle, but for the families, it's everything. They sit through weeks of testimony. Search and rescue volunteers describe the grid searches in the heat. Forensic specialists explain ballistic striations and DNA probability ratios in plain language. A digital forensic examiner walks the jury through how Canyon Guide AZ is traced to Caleb's IP, his laptop, his offline printouts. The most wrenching testimony comes from Tyler's and Maya's families, who speak not about the crime itself, but about the people they lost. Tyler's mother tells the jury about the phone call the night before he vanished, his promise to send a Grand Canyon photo for her fridge. Maya's sister reads from that last text about the local guide and the joking line, "Don't get murdered by some random from the internet, okay?" Her voice breaking over the bitter irony. The defense argues that Caleb never intended to kill, that an attempted robbery spiraled out of control, that desert heat and stress clouded his judgment. They suggest reasonable doubt about premeditation. But the pattern see prosecutors' present weeks of grooming behavior online, the use of a burner phone, the choice of a remote site, The effort to conceal the bodies paints a different picture. This was not a split-second panic. It was a plan. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury files back into the courtroom. They find Caleb D. Hargrove guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder, guilty of 2 counts of our kidnapping, guilty of robbery mayuakuit and associated firearms charges. At sentencing, the judge speaks directly to him. You took advantage of the openness of this land and the trust of people who came here seeking beauty, she says. You turned this desert into a hunting ground. She imposes 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus additional time on the lesser charges. For Tyler's and Maya's families, it is something like justice, but it is not closure, not really. As they walk out of the courthouse into bright sunlight, the same sky that hangs over mile marker 117, they know that no sentence can give them back what the desert has taken. But at least, they tell themselves, Caleb's hunt is over. He will never be free to walk those empty roads again. On maps and GPS screens, mile marker 117 soon is nothing more than a number, a point along a route, a place to measure distance. But for the families of Tyler Brooks and Stieg, Maya Ellison, it becomes something else entirely. A line they can never cross back over. A before and after point that splits their lives in 2. Today, if you drive that stretch of State Route 15, you won't see a memorial at the shoulder. The desert doesn't hold on to signs and flowers for long. Wind and sun erase almost everything. Almost. Every year, on the anniversary of their deaths, Tyler's and Maya's families travel back to Arizona. They meet with the search and rescue volunteers who refuse to give up, the deputies who first walked that barren ground, the prosecutors who stood up in court and said their names out loud. They don't go to the exact wash where their bodies were found. That place is too raw, too bound up with the worst of what happened. Instead, they stand at a safer overlook, a legitimate one this time, looking out over the same vast landscape that once drew Tyler and Maya here in the first place. They talk about who they were, not just how they died. The son who loved maps and backup plans. The daughter who saw beauty in abandoned things. 2 young people who believed the world was still, mostly, a place worth exploring. Cases like this force a hard question. How do we hold on to that sense of wonder and freedom without ignoring the risks that exist in the spaces between towns, between cell signals, between one anonymous username and the next? There are no simple answers, but remembering Tyler and Maya as more than headlines is one way of refusing to let their story be reduced to a warning label. If this case stays with you, consider sharing it. The more we recognize the patterns of manipulation, of false personas, of calculated isolation, the harder it becomes for people like Caleb to hide in plain sight. And if you want to go deeper into stories like this, cases where the landscape itself becomes part of the crime, subscribe and join us next time as we uncover another journey that took a dark and unexpected turn.